So today I'm going to be talking about some of my favorite underrated romance books. I kind of started thinking about this idea when the Goodreads Choice Award first round nominations came out. Every year I feel like I'm just very unimpressed with the nominations. This year specifically I was very unimpressed with the romance nominations, but I started thinking about how different my perception of what's popular is because I am so in the book community, and what's popular inside our little book community doesn't necessarily reflect what's popular with general readers. So I started going through my Goodreads shelf and looking at the romances that I have loved that have under 3,000 ratings on Goodreads, and I was very surprised with what I found. There were some that are on this list that in my mind are very popular, so I thought I would make this video to shine some light on some underrated romances that I think need to be on your radar. So I'm going to start with what has the highest ratings on this list and then work my way down to the lowest to the least rated. And I want to make it clear when I'm saying this, I don't mean that these books have a lower average rating, I just mean that they have lower number of ratings. The first one on this list is a book that I read a couple months ago, and that is A Girl Like Her by Talia Hibbert. This has 2,600 ratings. This is the first book in the Ravenwood series, I believe is what it's called, and I loved this book. I've said this before, Talia Hibbert is fastly becoming one of my favorite romance authors. I just love her writing and her romances. This follows a woman named Ruth who had a very bad experience with an ex-boyfriend, and because of that she is kind of ostracized in this town, so she really keeps to herself. She doesn't leave her apartment that often unless it's for something like an emergency, and she's very much isolated herself. I believe she also might have been on the autism spectrum. Hold on, I'm actually gonna double check before I say that. Yes, okay, so she's also autistic. The way that she makes money is she is a webcomic writer, so she makes this very popular webcomic, and one day she has a new neighbor move in next door to her, and he is described as being like Captain America. She says that he looks like Chris Evans and his name is Evan, so I feel like he's very much inspired by Chris Evans' Captain America. And he's like this very big, nice guy. He's totally like a cinnamon roll. And he makes dinner every night for his friend's mother who is sick. And so he finds out that Ruth is like eating microwaved meals. And so he starts cooking her dinner as well. And dropping it off at her place, and they kind of come up with this deal where he will make her dinner and bring it over to her apartment, and they will have like a little comic book club where they read a comic book and then discuss it over dinner, and it is just so cute. I loved this so much, and I cannot wait to read the rest of the series, but I definitely wanted to put this on your radar, especially now that Talia is having her first, I believe it's her first traditionally published book that just came out, Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I definitely feel like some of her backlist titles are going to be getting a lot more attention, hopefully. She definitely deserves it. The next one is one of the books that I was the most surprised to see had so few ratings because it's very popular on my channel. It's very popular amongst my friends and the people that I follow, and that is A Lesson in Thorns by Sierra Simone. If you guys watched my favorite romances that I've read so far in 2019, you would know this is one of my favorite romances that I've read in 2019. I loved this book, and I feel like I see people talking about it all the time, but it only has 2,400 ratings. So this book is kind of hard to describe fully, but it kind of has a very strong gothic feel to it, and it's about this group of 6 friends who were very close when they were younger, and then they all kind of went their separate ways, and now it is many years later, they're all adults, and they get drawn back to this mansion where they knew each other as children. There's sort of like a mystery going on with like secret societies and a ritual, and there was something that their parents were involved in when they were kids that they're trying to figure out. It is just so good. All the characters kind of have relationships with each other. It's very polyamorous, very queer. The writing was so great. The steamy scenes were like 11 out of 10. Perfect. This is one of the ones that I was surprised to see had such few ratings, which just made me realize so much that I'm in such like a booktube bubble because this book is super popular, I feel like, on booktube. but to the general readers, not so much. Okay, the next one also shocked me because these are books from a very popular author. So this is the Outlawz series by Elle Kennedy. So we have Claimed, Addicted, and Ruled. And this is a post-apocalyptic romance trilogy. The first book in this series has about 2,000 ratings, and that to me is just insane, especially when you compare it to the first book in Elle Kennedy's other series, Off Campus. That one has over 100,000 ratings, and I just think that's crazy. I don't really know why the Outlawz series has such few ratings. Personally, I preferred it to the Off Campus series. I love this romance series so much. This was one of the book series that like really cemented my love for romance. Like I said, it is a post-apocalyptic romance series. Basically, the whole world is kind of divided. There is like the main government and society in this like walled off community, and then there are the outlaws who live outside of the government and the community, and they're kind of being hunted down by the government. The thing that I loved most about the series is that it is very sex positive. Sex was a very like open and natural thing. I also really liked how all of the men in the series are like alpha males, but they aren't jealous and possessive and toxic. I just think it was a really great series. It was really fun. There's also an overarching plot through the whole trilogy that has to do with the world and the action. There's a lot of action in this series, and it is definitely criminally underrated considering Elle Kennedy is so popular. So the next book is another one that I really love and I've talked about a number of times on my channel, and that is Rafe, Buff Male Nanny by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This has 1,500 ratings, and I absolutely loved this book. It follows a woman who is a single mother to 2 daughters, and she is like, I believe she's a CEO, so she's a very like high profile career woman, and she works a lot. So she hires a nanny, and the nanny that she hires is Rafe, who is this very big, like muscular, tattooed guy. And she is kind of hesitant to hire somebody so attractive, but she does because he is really great with her kids, and they end up forming a romance. And what I really like about this is that there is the whole like boss employee dynamic, but they are very aware of that and transparent, and there's no real abuse of power. And I just loved Rafe as a character. He would like cook and bake cookies and take care of the girls and like do their hair, and it was just really adorable. So the next one is Only for a Night by Naima Simone, which if you had participated in the 24-hour smut-a-thon that Lainey and I did in September, this was the group book, and I really loved this. This was my favorite thing that I read that day, and it only has 651 ratings, which is crazy to me because it was so good, and it's really short, so it's one of those romances that you can just like read in a night. And this takes place in a sex club. The owner is this ex-Irish mob guy, and he left the mob and opened up this sex club, and one day the girl from his past, the girl that got away, walks into the club and asks him to help her have like a sexual awakening, and he tells her that they only have a night. So this novella follows that night, and I just thought it was really great. Like the build-up between all of the scenes was awesome because he essentially is like teaching her and like helping her explore her sexuality, and there's a lot of build-up. He like slowly introduces things to her, and it's very rare that for how short this was, I was so invested in their romance. Like I really felt the chemistry, and that partly has to do with the fact that I love second chance romances. I love when two people who couldn't make something work for whatever reasons come back like many years later and are able to make it work. So the last one on this list was also a surprise because, again, this is another one that I feel like is popular with me and my friends, but it has the least number of ratings on this list at 531. This is The King of Bourbon Street by Thea DeSalle. This is a romance that takes place in New Orleans. It's about a girl who, her parents who are very wealthy, they're kind of like a Kardashian type of family. They have a huge empire, and they're trying to make her marry somebody that she doesn't want to marry for like a business arrangement. And so to get out of that, she leaks a sex tape of herself and pieces out to New Orleans, where she meets the owner of this hotel, who is an older man and they have an instant attraction to each other. They start having a relationship and I really enjoyed this. The male love interest is bi, and I know that the rest of the books in this series also feature queer characters. I haven't read any of the other books in the series, but I think that the second book has a pan main character. So I'm definitely excited to read that. And I really liked this book. There are some BDSM elements to it if that is something that you enjoy. So those are all of the underrated romances that I love. Definitely let me know in the comments if there are any other romances that you think are underrated that you would like to put on my radar. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!